You say you can't figure out these elk critters. Just not sure what to do when it comes to finding them, calling them, figuring out what to do with the response. That's where today's show is going to help you out a ton. The more you understand the logic behind what drives these critters, their thought processes, their instincts, and those other forces that make them act in a certain way. It's an absolute game changer. So, y'all, it's time to haul freight and get after it. Get ready. It's time for Elk Hunting Logic Part 2. That discussion, our listeners' shout-outs, and questions from our awesome ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas. And joining me today, we've got our brother to the north, your elk hunting coach, Mr. Travis O'Shea. We've got the man with the golden voice and Western Contours podcast owner and Western Fly Cover CEO, Mr. Guy Duplantier in the house. We've got the ninja, Mr. Leroy Chavez in the house. And WWJGD, both of them in Cimarron, got it teed up and joining us tonight. We want to welcome one of the newest members to the ElkBros coaching staff by the way of the Red River country out of Henrietta, Texas. That's right, another Texan, almost retired Texas wildlife biologist, an avid hunter, and his wife makes some mean batches of brownies. Mr. Charlie Newberry is in the house.
Howdy, guys. Thank you. I was about to tell you, slow your roll there, Gilbert. The buzzards are circling, but
I picked it up.
But I ain't dead yet.
Right. Hey, look, let me tell you, retired ain't dead, bro. I'm going on 10 years, man. So it ain't dead. Right.
Hell, he's busier now than he was when he was coaching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You start living a different life. That's all it is, man. So I think I'm busier now than I ever was, if you ask Loretta anyway. So yeah, absolutely.
Is he growing that mustache?
It's been a year, guy.
Yeah, actually,
a year stash.
Actually, I work on dyeing this color just so I can get some respect.
You do not.
It looks like you missed some on that right side.
I dye it.
That's the light fixture happening in here, man. So yeah.
We got that new lighting
color. Yeah, I got to work.
You should trim it up to like it's like that wide.
Yeah, man. Pure.
I can't get by with nothing with this crew, man. I'm telling you. Hey, I can say this though. By the time this podcast comes out, we're looking at 40 days, y'all.
40 days, baby.
Mm-hmm. 40 days.
Yep.
Yeah. And it will not be long, man, till everybody starts hitting the woods. Well, and Travis, that's shorter for you guys, man, because you guys are like
August
25th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
7 days shorter.
I hope it starts cooling off soon. It's dang hot here.
Bro, it can get hot in Canada. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I just got an email from one of your boys up there, man. Old Ruff Keenan is his name, from up in your area up there. And sent a real nice email and had a question that, eventually we're going to hit. In fact, while we're doing this, at this point, I want to make sure that I thank, because I've been telling people to go ahead and send in emails, questions, comments, stuff, and we've been getting a ton of that, man. And a special thank you to Jason Slominski, Greg Crook, Joshua Glouser, Derek Baker, Ed Norris, Kent and Susan Brill, Dustin McCabe, Stoney Newberry, Isaac Paris, Richard Perez, Richard Strait, Ruff Keenan, and look, all of you guys that have sent incredible messages and DMs through Instagram. I've gotten some texts, and it's really, really awesome. Some of the cool things you guys have said, the words of support, how much our show means to you, thanking us for what we do and what we put out and how it makes a difference and how it has made a difference for you. And that's really why we do this. So I just wanted to thank those people. And I know they're excited with elk season coming up because, man, I tell you, I'm flat hearing it, man. I mean, it used to be I'd do a seminar and I'd go, how many of you guys have elk tags, and at the time we do them, nobody knows, right? You know? And so I just did a seminar in Albuquerque at the archery shop, and I went in there, man, and we had, I don't know, 40, 50 people. I don't know, Chav, how many you think about that?
Yeah, about that, 40 or 50.
And I'm like, how many of y'all have elk tags in your pockets? Man, it was like 98% people came because they were getting ready, So, but at the same time, here's the interesting thing, and I see the same thing, Guy. When I did the seminar at y'all's place at Western Hunt Fest, when I did the one earlier in January, I always ask, I'm like, how many of you guys plan on killing an elk this year? And man, I mean, no matter, I get like hands coming up, right? And then it's like, well, I just want to know, okay, first of all, how many of you out there consider yourself just an okay caller? And if I have 50 people, which I had the other day, I think I had about 5 or 6 hands as okay callers, right? And then I said, how many of you guys are considering yourself a good caller? I had 3 hands go up. I said, how many of you consider yourself a really good caller? And I had 1 hand go up. And to me, that almost spoke to, if you take a look at that, and it's been the same way, Bud, at just about every seminar that I've done. It's been like that. And if you
said, well, are y'all hunting with him? y'all hunting with that one guy? Because I would recommend it.
Hey, that one guy that said he's really good probably sucks.
So you can imagine what the other ones sound like. Somebody biting their toe off.
I swear I can call. Let me call.
Well, and to that point though, Guy, even like, and I don't want to take it away from people. I don't want to do that, man.
Right.
But like I hear a lot of calling competitions. And really, in a lot of calling competitions, it's the best of, in a lot of them. Like, I've been to some great ones too, man. I've been to some outstanding calling comps. But a lot of these, small calling comps ends up being the best person out of, let's just say, an average group, right? Or people that struggle calling. So even though, and then they come out of that like, oh, I won it and stuff like that, thinking that their calling is at that level when they really need to work on it a whole lot more, right?
Yeah.
So, but when I saw that demographic of in the seminar, and I saw that, I was like, man, that's a perfect reason why you look and we have a 95% failure rate of archers out there, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they're just people that.
What percentage of that demographic, Joe, do you think is people that just lack the confidence in their calling, right? Because confidence is everything. And I think, you listen to some folks, there's calls I'm reluctant to make, and I consider myself a good caller.
Sure.
I have animals coming in, I have animals responding. So I think that there's a level of that where people are reluctant to say that, hey, I'm a good caller, or really understand what that comparison is. 1, 2, they haven't had the interactions to confirm what their calling level or skill level ability is, right? In real world situations. Because what's like, you're talking about calling comps, like I've heard really good callers in calling comps, and then I've heard guys, and it's like, boy, you had the balls to get up here. Good on you.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, what do we consider a good caller? I wouldn't use the comparison of stage calling when I'm talking real world September.
Yeah.
Because
So
I've been looking at response. It's just, to me, it's a different world until you get up into the upper echelons, the Tony Gilbertsons and, folks like that. I would be going, man, what have your interactions look like in the field with that calling? That's where you need to judge.
well, for me, man, it's like, does my cow call sound like a cow that I'm listening to? And you can hear that on YouTube. You can hear it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Travis?
Yeah, but that's like,
you'd be surprised. Some guys are pretty tone deaf, man.
It's singing
some
in the
guys
shower.
Don't hear it the same.
Yeah.
I hop in that shower and that soap hits me and it's Mariah Carey, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really hard. Like Gil said, tone deaf. I mean, it's like, man, and I've heard guys say, man, I can't call and, we'll work on something, or I'll say, let me hear it. And they'll hit it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yes,
that was an excellent, so.
Yeah. The trouble I see also is if you got a group of like 3 or 4 or 5 guys, there's usually one caller in that group of 5. And the rest are just, you ask them to call and they go white in the face and they're like, what? Yeah. You want me to call? Right. So,
yeah.
Well,
ooh, that's a topic right there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
For sure. Like,
we all see it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that, like, one of my things that I said, I told everybody there, you want to know what call I use on September 1?
Yeah.
Go kill an elk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the first one, I've been with Joe, I don't know, 14 straight years, and that is not a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, when he hits it, one time. Yeah. We on, buddy. Or it might be, I mean, which one we going to first, right? I mean, literally one year we had that happen. One note. And Joe and I are going, well, which way are we going to go? Because we got multiple bulls sounding off, right? And it was so easy that day. You hit days like that, right? And then you go for a week and not hear anything, right? But that is exactly right, Joe.
Guy, I don't worry so much about the people that say that I'm a great caller or I'm a really good. What bothers me is when I only see 5 people out of 50 say I'm an okay caller, because I mean, that to me, that says there's 5 out of 50.
And y'all are all bow hunting?
5 out of, and they're all bow hunters. And when you go 5 out of 50, how many people are out there strictly hiking and hoping they're going to see an animal and really aren't going to get? Or
I'm gonna say the same thing. Goes back to confidence.
Yeah,
I can tell you,
it's a lack of confidence, because you put me in the woods and I don't give a flying chili bean fart, man. If all I could do is mew and lost calf, that's what I'm doing. But guys will go out and they're like, oh, I don't want to call. I don't want to call. I don't want to do the wrong thing. You got to.
You have
to just go.
So for all y'all listening right now, I hope and I want you to get this message that you are not going to mess up, all right? Even if you did, it's going to be a learning experience. And I'm not saying by messing, like if something comes in and you do something. Now look, I've gone into elk. I have stalked up within 20 yards of bedded cow, bedded bull, let out a small cow call, and sent everything running. I've done that, man.
Yeah.
And boy, did I learn from that,
Yeah.
But
you didn't need to say anything. You just needed to kill that son buck.
Yeah, but think about lacking the confidence in the woods already. Then you blow a situation. You just blew the lack of confidence off the freaking lack of confidence Richter. Right? Because people aren't assessing that as a learning experience unless they're conscious of
failure.
It. But the the disappointment of blowing them out on a 7-day hunt is the disappointment in most folks' head of blowing them out on a 7-day hunt.
Well, all I want to tell you is this, you guys that are listening, man, is in basketball, you're going to have a lot of air balls when you first start shooting before they start going in. And then once they start going in, it's like the basket gets twice as big, right? So that's
why it's so important to practice.
The key is keep on shooting, right?
Yeah.
You just got to keep on shooting, man.
Yeah, the only way to get, I tell my hitters all the time, Joe, only way to get out of when we're not seeing the ball well, we don't ever use the SLUMP word, right? Because that's a mental thing, right? It really is. So we just say we're not seeing it really good. Well, the only way to see it good is to keep swinging it, right? And when we swing ourselves right out of it, right? You can't think yourself out of it. You can't do it. You've got to swing yourself out of that deal. And it's the same thing with us calling, you know?
Yeah.
I can remember for years starting out with Chav. I mean, I'd be with Chav and you know, he would be like, do this. Okay, that bull said that. You say this. And I didn't know why I'm doing it. I'm just listening to the man telling me to make the sound. And luckily, I could make the sound because I've been with Joe long enough. And then before you know it, Joe and I are calling in bulls together, you know. And now I have no problem going out by myself and calling, you know, calling bulls in for other people's all the time. The greatest accomplishment, I'm telling you, I've killed some really beautiful bulls. The greatest accomplishment I ever had was calling in a bull for Chav and watching him draw. It's the greatest accomplishment I ever had. And then calling a bull in for Joe. One of the greatest things that in my elk hunting career has been able to call bulls in for other people. Right. Has nothing to do with me letting the string go, man. Yeah. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy speaking the language. And Travis O'Shea, I got to spend a whole week with Travis O'Shea, one of the best elk callers in the country, builder and caller. And all I did was soak up that information, man. You know, took my chuckle game from really weak to really one of the best things I do now. Right. So
and it's funny.
It's just about practice.
Because you were practicing and I was practicing right beside you. So both of us are going up to a higher level. So
for sure.
That's all it takes. Just take one of these with you and just keep it in your mouth all the time. It doesn't matter what call you're using. Gilbert, you're traveling all the time. You got it going, right? You're
it. You go in my truck, there's a bugle tube and there's 2 or 3 reeds in the truck right now.
With 40 days to go, we got lots of time to
There's so much coaching going on right now. Like we got coaching going on with our ElkBros Adventures guys. Yep. We've got coaching going on with Hunt Wars. I got coaching going on with other people. We do seminars. And I tell you what, man, one of the biggest tools I use and the best tools out there is the O'Shea siren drill, man. And if you guys don't know what that is, man, it is the best control drill that you can do, because it is simply going nice and controlled, man. Just doing that siren. There you go. Go ahead, Trav. Oh, you're gonna have to change your audio. You're losing it.
We'll get back to this here. Keep talking while I figure this out, Joe.
So the beauty of that O'Shea siren drill is you're going to start from the bottom. You're going to go all the way up, and you're nice and controlled, and you're going to come all the way down nice and controlled. And what you don't realize is by doing that siren drill, you have just done a bugle and you've just done a cow call. You did it in a different process, and you could actually do a bugle in that long, lengthy process and come off. But it is one and both in the drill. And we're going to go ahead and do the siren drill.
I do it in my warm-up drill every day.
Yeah. Now watch this. So on the front, if he just takes just the front side and puts a little more oomph in that, what happens? Go ahead, Trav. Give him just the front. There we are. We got a bugle, man. He's already, if he adds a little voice inflection on the front of it and just gets that. You're right into it.
Simple.
Now, on the backside, he's already at the high pitch, and now he's going to just come off of it on the back end of the siren drill, and it sounds like this. There you are, man. And you just keep shortening that, and you're right there in that mew, right?
Cow call.
Cow call. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
there it is, dude.
So there's a nugget for you guys, man. The best drill, I call it the O'Shea siren drill, it
has to have a better name than that.
Well, okay, we'll call it Joe. We'll just call it the
You come up
O'Shea
with all
drill.
this ElkBros, blue collar, this, that, and you're gonna crap on our.
We'll
boy
call it the
Travis
Canadian
with that.
two-step.
The two-step.
The
It's gotta
Canadian
be
waltz.
marketed way better
Well,
than that,
no,
bro.
because if it was up to Guy, it would be the
bad
the
mofo.
OSD. It'd be the OSD, right?
OSD.
What's the D? What's the D?
The drill, the O'Shea siren
God.
drill, OSD. He's like OSD.
OSD, baby.
Hey, Joe, you finally got Guy back.
He ain't get me. He ain't get me
OSD
shit
from the
back.
CA.
If it might be funny in Canada, bro. You come south of the border, that shit wasn't funny.
Hey, dude, I saw it coming from down deep with you, bro. I saw that tickle coming from deep. All right, man. Let's go ahead and let's get this party started.
Fantastic, Joe. Well, we're going to go straight to our ElkBros mailbox.
All right.
Guy, can you get us kicked off, baby?
I sure can. All right. So, Mr. Jeremy Gilbertson from Los Alamos, New Mexico. I'm the kind of guy.
I was just going to tell you, Jeremy is also one of our new ElkBros coaches, man.
Oh yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that as long as I'm in the woods, rain or shine, I'm loving life no matter what we're seeing elk-wise. I've got some buddies that are not like that, but definitely some that are ready to throw in the towel when things are harder than what they expected. I think going into a hunt, both from a hunter side and client side with realistic expectations is extremely important. And sometimes I might hype it up too much just because I love September no matter what and set their expectations a bit too high. My question is for you, or my question for you is, whether it's a client, a buddy you're introducing to elk hunting, or maybe even yourself in a new scenario, how do you like to set realistic expectations for the struggle of an elk hunt while keeping the fire alive? Oh man, this is like a hitter for me. Like, why not share the passion for it, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody comes out there and they think they're going to run into a herd of elk, man, it's a done deal. And sometimes it's not for them. But man, you don't temper your passion. Now you can temper your expectations and have them, walk in the woods with maybe slightly tempered expectations, but man, don't temper your passion for it. That's what you need to share to get people fired up. I'm going to tell them, come ready to work. It's not easy. And I think that's been said enough times about elk hunting, and it should be resounding. But it's not easy.
It's extremely difficult. I think we gloss that over because it's romanticized what we do so much, calling bulls in and everything. But I think we gloss that hard part over because, listen, brother, it is one of the most difficult things I do every year. And it's hard, and I try to tell everybody, look, there'd be a lot more people doing this if it was super easy, and it's not, and it's hard for a reason, but it's the hard that makes it great, and you're right, Guy. I don't temper my passion for it at all. I absolutely love what we do, but I definitely, Jeremy, you definitely want to manage their expectation when they get there that this is hunting. We're hunting wild, Rocky Mountain elk that live, everything out there is trying to kill them. And they need to know that this is a real hunt. It's not a canned hunt,
And it's not for some people, right? I mean, it's just not for everybody. Not everybody wants to go out there and suffer and go through all that. It's just not for everyone. I'm sorry to say that.
A lot of people think it's like those highlight videos, and it's not that easy. There's work involved. You just got to grind. I think Joe and Travis have probably guided a lot more people. So what have you run into when you're trying to guide somebody and they get discouraged?
So what I think is elk hunting's emotional. It's ultimate highs and ultimate lows. And it doesn't matter if it's August 25th or September or into October. I mean, you guys we all go through it, it's highs and lows. And the thing is, the season is so quick. It's like we got 40 days coming till we hit it. That's going to be here before we know it. We're all excited. We're happy. We're going into it. But then we get into elk season, and before we know it, it's blowing past us so fast. Mm-hmm. And then you come to the end of September, and it's like, oh man, like it's almost over. Like that's a huge low for a lot of people, right? So all I can say is, just make the most of it. Every day is a blessing, just being out there.
Yeah.
Have fun, enjoy it, follow those elk trails. Some lead you into elk, some don't. I mean, some days you hear bugles, some days you don't. Sometimes you go 7, 8, 9, 10 days, you don't hear a bugle.
In
That's elk
15
hunting.
minutes, it can change.
And yeah, that's right. At 15 minutes, 2 minutes, it's over. And like Chav says, like just embrace it. That's what we do.
With myself, man, I don't ever temper my expectations, and my passion feeds that as well, because, uh, I'm somebody that I want my person that I'm with to believe that they're always going to have that opportunity and that chance could happen and be ready. I'd rather them be that way than to hear why I didn't expect that to happen, or, I didn't think we were going to see anything. And for me, I try to involve the passion of the hunt to keep them involved in that part of it. And because the whole thing with the elk is only just one part of it, man. It's the whole deciphering, it's the challenge of trying to get close to one to figure out where they are, where they're staying, what they're doing, why they're doing it, showing them where the rubs are, showing them what the sign looks like. I'm paying attention to what the smell is, looking which direction the tracks are, why are those tracks going that way, having those conversations and really deciphering and hunting the hunt. So I think that's the big part, is I bring the passion of hunting the hunt into it. But the expectation I always have is, man, we can go into the woods any day and kill an elk, but we got to have that confidence to do it. We got to be ready to do it. We got to understand we're putting all of this time in for a small window of incredible. We're putting a whole lot of heart in, a whole lot of heart for a little tiny moment of something that is going to drive us and our dreams for another year, man, and year after
a whole year.
This is going to be Mining Chat's 42nd season. I'm as excited now as I ever was, man. And we've gone through a bunch of elk, and I've had a lot of hunters and a lot of people out there. I really don't think you temper the expectation. You just make sure they understand that nothing comes without hard work. There is no magic wand, and we're going to have to work to make it happen. But we can do it. We absolutely can do it, right?
Sure. And there's going to be parts of it that you don't like. Some guys are really going to like doing the scenario calling. Some guys are going to like the hiking part of it. Some guys are just going to like, just hanging out around the water hole.
Yeah.
There's aspects in the whole season that are going to align with the way you hunt. And if you temper to that, and hunt the way you want to hunt, and your enjoyment is going to be escalated hugely,
Yeah. And some of that too, like what Travis saying, right, is if these are new folks, they haven't, lack of a better phrase, mixed and mingled with the different aspects of elk hunting.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're trying to chase a guy who's used to the grind, used to the guy that's used to the grind or likes to just get boots to dirt and go, that may not be their stick, So I think it's just giving it a chance too, right? But there's some dudes, man, day 2 on a lived it, day 2 on an 8-day hunt. The same for me. I'm out, and drove almost 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
3 days after he drove 1,000 miles, and it's just like, damn, son, hey, I want to try that again. Well, go ahead and try it, buddy. Not on my back. But I think they have to put their toes in the water and give it a chance.
Yeah. And
try different things. Yeah.
Whether it's the hunter side, I think if you treat the client side like it's your hunt, I think that's what I would tell you most of all. Jeremy, is like that I consider every time that I'm guiding somebody my hunt, and I'm working as hard, and I try to, there was a time early on when I would worry about what this person is thinking about how far we got to go, or how far they've hiked, or whether we're going to go down this ridge, or whether, and now there's some considerations I have to do if it's because of physical ability, and things like that. Then the pro in me has to find another way when I have a client like that. But when I have somebody of ability, what I do is I think, what would I do? I don't worry about what that person thinks about what I'm doing. I do my thing and I do it in the hunt. And but at the same time, I'm having those conversations to make it a partnership and keep them part of it, right? So that's kind of where I'm in. I think that once you just do things like that, and you're going to be fine, Jeremy, because your passion just reeks, dude. That's why you're one of the ElkBros coaches now, and that's why you were selected. I mean, you can see it coming out of your eyes. We can see it just, in your step and how excited you get and the things that you do. So that becomes contagious. And when you keep doing that, I think it's when a lot of clients are with silent guides and they have no gauge of where they are and how they're doing, or what the hunt is like, that they're inside their mind, they're going like, what the heck is this? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I've had several feelings like that.
Yeah.
Well, and it could be like when he's out with the guys, the expectation side of it. Do you take the first elk you see, or do you hold out for a 5x5? Do you hold out for a 6x6? Wonder what the guide will think if I pass on this 3x3. There's that side of it too. And if you just want meat in the freezer, your expectation is totally different than going after like a big 6x6 and putting something on the wall.
Charlie, I know you've been around people that have been on a hunt. Of people that you've talked that have been on a hunt that the people within that group had a little bit different expectations, and it kind of messed with the dynamics a little bit from the people that you had talked to.
Yeah, I mean, and I've got it on lots of whitetail hunts, and I mean, you just tell them right up front, here's what we got, here's what a quality animal is for this area. And I mean, they should have, if it's a purchase hunt, those guys should have done the research, to be honest, beforehand to know what they're getting. They can't come into a place and, if they're going to shoot a 140, 150 type deer and their expectations is a 170. Well, that's should have been discussed way before they even booked the hunt.
You bring up a good point, because some people expect like they're going to have a shot on an elk every day, right? They're like, I should have a shot on an elk.
That needs to be discussed. Yeah.
Well, and you may get one opportunity.
It's not Vermejo.
You may get one opportunity in 5 to 10 days.
That could be it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And and even with guys that have, my son and even some of my friends that are coming to hunt with me this year, I tell them up front, this is the first time they've ever been up there in September. They've rifle hunted. I'm like, guys, this is not a vacation. This is work. Yeah. You're going to get up early. You're going to get to bed late, and we're going to go anywhere from 6 to 12 miles a day, depending on 6 would be a short day.
Yeah.
And it's not flat ground.
Yeah.
Not at all flat.
So that's our best advice for you. I hope you got something out of that, Jeremy. And I know you did. You're going to do great, man. Guy, what's the second one?
All right, we got Josh Glouser out of Salt Lake City, and my brother and I are going to hunt a ranch in southern Colorado. I've attached a picture from the property that our friend sent us, and you can see that the terrain is pretty flat. We're used to hunting the mountains where there's lots of elevation and cover to hide behind. So this picture surprised us a bit. My question is this: what approach would you take to elk hunting in open terrain like what's seen in the photo? As of now, we are planning trying to pattern some bulls, play the wind, and hopefully set up an ambush with a decoy. Any advice you guys could give us on this type of hunt would be greatly appreciated.
Sounds to me like they got a strategy, man, and it's not a bad one, right?
Yeah, I think what threw him off
on the edges.
Yeah, I think what threw him off is he thinks that, or he may be thinking, which I doubt, that they're going to be in the open like that. They're not going to be there.
No.
Look at the trees, look at the mountains.
Yeah. That's late season right there.
Yeah, that's leaves. October, November.
Yeah, maybe even deeper. Yeah, November, December.
Yeah.
And they might be in these fields early in the morning and late in the evening. They might be in those fields, but I'm seeing a lot of river cover in there. I know that's got it with all those trees in that flatland. That's got to be a river there, and it's got all the trees around it, and you're talking September when, if they are screaming, Dude,
Yeah.
I get somebody in those trees because that's only going to be so thick, and I got somebody way on the other side that's creating a little rut fest over on the other side and pull some things across, man. I mean,
Yeah.
if
You
you
can see
want to
that
call,
that
you
creek.
don't even have to call,
You can see
right?
that creek in the back of the. You see them big cottonwood trees that are lining that creek that are back there. I mean, that's prime elk hunting habitat from there on back. But like when we were talking about this picture in before is 100% we want to not call to
From
those
the
elk in
edge.
the middle of that field from the edge. They're
Yeah.
not they're not coming. They're just not, man. They're it'll kind of they'll perk their ears up and look at you and everything and be like, all right, come on. If there's a bull in there, they'll probably chuckle at you and ask you to come
So,
out. But
so
Yeah.
generally
today's
not going
show,
to come over to you.
today's show is Elk Hunting Logic, and Gil is exactly right, and Guy's exactly right. You come on that edge and you make a call, and them boogers are gone. So what is the logic behind that? What is the behavior? What's the defense mechanism? Why is it that they're going to disappear? If I was to go
Because
on the
they
edge
need
of
to
that field right
visually
there,
see.
what's
They
that?
need to they need to visually confirm that that's an elk
Hmm.
before they feel comfortable. That's they use their eyes and their nose so much, right? But their ears is not the thing that's going to confirm everything for them. Their eyes are what they use so much to
So
confirm
how is
that,
that
Joe.
different being like what we're doing right now? If we look at this picture and
Mhm,
we're calling from where we're at right here in this picture, how is it
mhm.
any different doing that than me being on the other side of those trees 300 yards calling?
Oh my gosh, it's way different. I mean, you're not you're not on the edge of that clear cut where they're looking for in that pasture. They're hearing something back up in the woods and they're like, all right, well, now maybe we can go up in there and check it out. They got to come to you to figure out what that is, right? Whether it's you raking or panning or painting a picture of there being a hot cow up there and it's thick. So they know, well, we're not going to be able to see 200 yards once we get in there. So they're absolutely going to come in there and investigate, especially, them younger bulls. They're real curious and want to be around other elk. So, I mean, you got an opportunity. And if you do your homework beforehand and seeing where they're entering these fields and exiting these fields, you can get on the downwind side of some of these bigger trails and be able to call from that area where it's 200-300 yards away and suck them in there,
So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
or catch them in the transition.
so let's
Yeah.
let's go down to the base of it. So basically what we're saying is and we're actually getting into some of our content that we'll hit later and we can actually, talk about it more, is that elk, they always need to verify or want to verify what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and not what they're smelling. They know what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
they want to verify visually first. That's the one thing that they can see the most with. I mean, they see 240 degrees, something like that, right? And then the next thing is they want to confirm with their ears if they can't do it with their eyes. And last but not least, they want to confirm with their nose. The reason the nose is the worst is it's dependent on the wind, where their ears, they can pick up sound all around them. Their eyes, they can see that. If seeing is believing for us and for elk. So if you're on that edge, as open as that is, and you call, they should see another elk standing there. And when they turn and they don't see another elk, red flag, man. And they're gone, right?
No, yeah. Number one, I see that picture, and there's no way in this green earth I'm gonna call from right there. Like never in the world would I ever do that.
Guys
What
will
I
do
see,
it.
I know, but what I see is so those elk are feeding out there in the middle, and then I see the bush out in the back. My mind automatically goes, okay, feeding area, bedding area. They got to go from point to point, no matter what.
Yes.
So get back in those transition zones, and they're not going to have the same trail every morning, every evening, but they are going to take a trail. And when you're back in there on those trails, you can steer those elk with a couple cow mews. Those cows will come off that trail and they'll come over to your trail. Now they're going to advance right past you, right? So keep it really simple. Feeding areas, bedding areas, and what's in between.
And the picture, I mean, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? But in this planning, it's really not, right? Because flat,
Right.
Flat does not mean no features.
Correct.
That's
Right?
right.
No
And
doubt.
just like
There's
Joe and
plenty
Gil
of features
said, you
in
look
that
at those
land.
cottonwoods in the background. If you got a river bottom there, you got plenty of features to deal with in that, right?
Yeah.
So
Lot.
Yeah.
attack those features, right, while you're attacking the wind, and use that to your advantage when you are
Yep.
calling them and you're trying to take away that
Moving.
visual. Don't just think that we're saying get 200 yards inside the brush and call, right? Attack those terrain features, get below that rise, get down in that river bottom, let them present themselves as they come and look. In my head, worst case scenario is I'm down at the bottom, at the toe of slope, and they come out, I got a 20, 30 yard frontal. I'm a frontal guy. I'm not going to be shy of saying I take a frontal, but use the terrain features. Don't freak out because it looks flat from one picture.
That's right. And like what guys, to add into what guys got, you got the willows and you got the field and the little willows, and then you got the big trees in the background. If you guys have hunted whitetails at all, there's a transition zone along those trees where the big trees meet the little trees.
Yep.
There's probably a game trail that goes right along there. The elk are going to take that trail.
Resistance.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's lots going on in that picture. It's a little bit of elk knowledge to visualize it. But once you get in there and see it, and then you put it all into play, it could be something you could actually kill an elk in there fairly easy.
Amen. And like Trav's saying, then a self climber or something along those lines isn't bad for an elevated position for a guy elk hunting. I know it sounds off the norm of what we do, but I mean, there's plenty of people in that 10% that are successful every year sitting up in a stand, right? You sit up in a stand, have them in that transition area, and have your caller back behind you, and you're in an elevated position. Wow, man, you might have increased in that thick. You might have increased your shot opportunity, right, from that elevated position.
For sure. And that fella doesn't even have to call sitting in that stand. Just let it unfold.
Right. Let it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, a tree stand in that situation would be gold, man. A tree stand isn't a very effective way to hunt elk anyway. So, I mean, it's a solid.
Get one around a wallow or a water hole. Deadly.
A highway that goes from one area to the other. Yeah, absolutely, man.
A good trail now.
Yeah, a funneled area.
How many bulls you see in Colorado, Chav?
Yeah, plenty.
Sitting on a water hole. More than we did combined.
Yep.
More than we did combined.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout-outs. If you're new to our show, this shout-out to our followers in a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
All right, Chav.
Chav, you want to get us started?
First one.
Okay. This week's top listening city got its name from a local rancher's cattle brand. Hosting an annual town barbecue, this small rural town is a wheat farming and cattle ranching community in Montana. It is the gateway to Fort Peck Lake and Fort Peck Dam, which are area landmarks and provide recreational opportunities such as fishing, boating, and camping. And their brand obviously is a circle, so this is Circle Montana.
Circle Montana.
Circle Montana.
Montana. EMT in the
house. Awesome.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Jody.
No, I'm just saying, man, Montana was in the house, man, twice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. This town is known for deposits of petrified wood scattered in local fields and creeks, as well as its historic opera house and its annual mud bog races. The town, named after a local rancher, has tons of outdoor recreational opportunities, a nearby Longs Reservoir and World Reservoir. Richie, Montana.
Richie,
Montana in the house.
I think there's only like 90 miles between Richie and what was the first one?
It's the same dude listening to episodes as he's
Circle.
Circle Montana. Circle Montana.
Richard. Yeah.
I think it's 20 miles apart, 21 miles.
So
that's
I'm
definitely
thinking,
the same.
Oh,
guy.
wow.
Same guy.
I'm wondering if there ain't hunting buddies from one place to the other, and they're watching
They're competing.
I've always wanted to hunt in Montana. I drove through that state a bunch of times working in the oil field, and golly,
Yeah.
what a beautiful place. But I had to call my mama one time because I didn't see nobody for driving for 2 hours, Joe. I didn't see a
Thought the
soul.
rapture had hit.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I thought the rapture'd come, son. I had to
I
call
thought
my
that was
mama.
I thought that was Dakota, man. I thought that was North Dakota.
Same
It's
thing.
similar. If you're on that side, it's similar.
Yeah, it's the same thing, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
same thing. When I ain't seen a soul in 2 hours, man.
Is that the only time you call your mama?
No, I don't. But I don't see anybody running the roads. My mama's the next thing closest to Jesus. So I promise you, when the rapture comes, my mama's going first. So,
All I know,
The
man,
rapture's
is
like Ghost with Gil.
when we were going
Yeah.
to Canada, dude, the country that we went through going up that way before we hit the border
Yeah.
was unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
just gorgeous.
beautiful
Yeah.
place, man.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this town, home to a rare giant sequoia tree, is a geologist's dream, being located near the San Rafael Swell that is known for its stunning geographical formations. Local legends speak of a mysterious creature residing in the Farron Reservoir, sparking curiosity and occasional sightings akin to the Loch Ness Monster. Farron, Utah.
Farron, Utah.
Barron, Utah.
Gil, that
That's
sounds like
awesome,
someplace you
man.
need to go fishing, man, and go see if you can catch.
No, I don't want
Yeah,
no Loch
that
Ness
bugger.
monsters, bro. No monsters, no painted,
ghosts,
no painted
rapture.
places, nothing. No, yeah, not yet. We want the rapture, but just not yet. I ain't done on this earth
Gil,
yet.
you're getting soft.
I might be.
So they have a sequoia tree there, and it's like the only
Sequoia.
one from, what are they like in California? The sequoia
Yeah.
orange?
Yeah,
Cal.
redwood
Yeah.
forest.
Yeah, so they have a giant sequoia there, man. That's just, I think that's a special thing where they're at. You won't find another one.
No doubt. All right, boys. This next city, once the site of one of the final Civil War battles, is located in the Shenandoah Valley near the Blue Ridge Mountains. The city was named after Revolutionary War hero Mad Anthony Wayne and hosts an annual Mad Anthony Mud Run involving a challenging obstacle course and lots of mud, attracting adventurous participants from all over Waynesboro, Virginia.
Waynesboro.
Virginia.
The VA.
Burrow.
Liking it muddy. Like it muddy,
Man.
boy.
Waynesboro,
Yeah.
Virginia. Don't get no
Yeah.
more Dixie
Oh, I
than
got
that,
so
huh?
much I could say to that, Joe, but I'll leave it alone, bro.
Behave yourself.
Boys or something.
Matt
You didn't
Anthony.
hear him, Gil?
Yeah, I did hear him. I did for sure. And Guy, we're going to let you lead us into the next part of our show.
Main content.
Main content.
Oh, he don't have
There
his
we
mic
go,
today,
baby.
man. So
He don't have his
I don't have my
mic,
mic.
so he can't get close and go main content.
Let me try it. Main content.
Not
There
the
we
same.
go.
So all this time we thought it was the voice, man, the golden voice, and it's
Yeah.
just the microphone.
That's still the golden voice, Joe.
Whatever it is, I got a fool.
That's
Yeah.
all that matters, man. So, y'all, man, we're so pumped to be doing the second part of this. There's going to be a part 3 because we actually have a guest coming with us. The guest that actually gave us this question. We're looking forward to having him join us on the show next time.
That's cool.
Elk Hunting Logic, Behavior and Motivational Keys. This is part 2. And what we are doing here is we're talking about basing your decisions during your elk hunt on elk logic, what their thought processes are, their instincts, their external forces, and things that motivate them to act or react in a certain way. Because if you understand these, you have the decipher, you got the keys to the puzzle that you can help you have those and make those decisions. Decisions on locating, decisions on calling, on whether you should press, whether you should wait, how to respond, whether you chase, do you set up, anything that has to do with the closing. And I've got to say this. I'm going to give you the Duplantier, the GD disclaimer. The GD disclaimer. That's pretty good.
Disclaimer.
You know, last time, Guy brought up something, and we want to make sure you understand that no matter how many years you've been hunting these critters, how much experience, it doesn't matter how much you know, there is no silver bullet all the time, man. You can make an educated guess based on the logic we're giving you, but I want you to know our goal is not to make you overthink things. We don't want paralysis by analysis. But what we want to do is we want to arm you with some knowledge that is going to help guide those gut feelings and decisions that you make, right? Yeah. And give you a basis for that. So we want to talk mentality. We want to talk need. We want to talk instinct. We want to talk roles. Those are the keys that we want you to understand. Okay? Then you will know how and when you can use those to your advantage. Because I hear people all the time. They're like, man, especially if they're dependent on calling elk. They wake up to a windy day and they're like, it's over. I can't kill an elk today. I'm not going to hear anything respond to me. Well, what can you take advantage of in that case, man? Because
stalking.
Yeah. And I mean, the stalking is great. Those critters, because of an external force, are going to put themselves in places where the wind is not going to be as bad, where they can get some refuge from that, because they don't want things moving around them. They don't want all that noise in their ears, and it totally messes up their nose, right? So there are things that you can take advantage of in every situation. You might be used to one style, but if you pay attention and something dampens that style, if you're somebody that you're a ridge runner and all you're doing is location bugle, location bugle, location bugle, waiting for a response, and you never hear an elk like there's no elk in the woods, then you had better have a plan B. Okay? And it's like when I was talking to the guys at the seminar. Elk have two essential that, it's funny, these needs help each other, but at the same time they're contradicting needs, in that elk do things to survive. They have the need to survive, and they have the need to breed. Now, to survive, they have to breed, right? But also, that whole thing about having to breed for the bulls can hurt them surviving, because that's when they make the most mistakes, and that's when it really helps us to be able to kill those boogers, right? So let's talk breeding instincts, behaviors, needs, and goals first, okay? When we think about, let's take the two of them, and I just want to take it to the most basic. When it comes to breeding, who's making the decision about the breeding?
The cows.
The same. Yeah, I was going to say it's the same in all our households.
Yeah, exactly. Same way we live, boys.
And Guy, man, there's a lot of truth to that in a lot of ways, right?
Yes, a lot of ways.
I mean, the whole bachelor thing, right? The whole wanting to be away for a while. But yet when it's time to breed, man, it's like all hands on deck, right? Okay.
Yeah. But even look at the cows amongst the cows.
I don't know how many of you guys say no, but I don't.
Yeah. So you got the bull that wants to breed, but then look at the characteristics that's going on between the cows. If you got 5 cows or 6 cows, they're fighting amongst themselves for who's going to breed first.
Yeah.
So even though
you got to play hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think it's kind of like this, man. A guy can look his best, he can wear his best suit, and he can go out there and say, I'm ready. And there's not going to be a whole lot of takers most of the time, right? You change that to the female side, and
depends on how good you dance, Joe.
You change that to the female side, man, and there's going to be a lot of takers. So even though those cows are doing that, and people have to understand what happens and what causes a rut, y'all.
They go into estrus.
Yeah, go into estrus. A cow goes into estrus.
When a cow goes in estrus, it causes
Days
a
get
rut.
shorter, the equinox comes, and that's what kicks the cows off into the breeding cycles.
Well, and those cows, depending on their age, can come in at different times, right? You can have some that come in early. You can have some that are consistent. The more mature cows are more consistent. The younger cows are more inconsistent. So when that happens, that's when you have, you can have a rut blow up September 1st, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. They're screaming. They're screaming.
And then it can be dead 2 days later because that was just those,
That one cow.
That cow's gone out. Yep.
The couple of cows that were in that herd popped and started something off, and then 3 days later it's done.
Yep.
So anytime
really
you
24
hear,
hours it can be done.
anytime you hear multiple bulls bugling, that is a cow in estrus. That's the only thing that is setting that off, man. Bulls will they're going to do all this pecking order setting way ahead of time, man. They're doing it well, it's getting ready to happen here, man. They're going to be doing this once they start going to peel that
mid-August
velvet. And then they start measuring each other up.
Well, and look at elk. They call all year round anyways. The cows are mewing, the calves are going, the bulls are bugling. I mean, you hear they're growling and grunting and doing all kinds of stuff. And then, like Joe says, they come into that pecking order. They already know who's established already, so you get a hot cow coming in and all hell breaks loose, and watch out. It's happening.
But see, here, let me tell you the cool thing that I've seen is that the more mature bulls, it's not their first rodeo. So when it comes time, like you have the pre-rut and you have the rut, but in between you have that rut transition period. And what's happening there is the older bulls know that that's not the time to be working to gather cows. It's just wasted effort. It's just wasted energy. And one of those behaviors and needs and instincts to survive is for elk to conserve energy, right? They want to conserve energy because they're going to lose a lot of body weight as they go through the season. So in that rut transition period, what happens is you get those pseudo bulls, man. You get those younger age class bulls, those smaller bulls that are going to go and try to gather up one, gather two. Some of those guys, man, are thrilled to death with getting one cow, right?
Yeah, that's all they need.
Yeah, if they could get two, if they could get 3, 4, those big guys just stay off in the wings, man. In fact, most people don't know this, but in some areas, those big giant bulls sometimes never really become a herd bull. They just wait till the cows come in estrus, go in and breed them, and then come out.
Get out.
Yeah. Usually at night. Get in, breed them, and they're gone. You don't even see them.
And they're going to let the other guys do all the work, right? So what's interesting is, like, you can go in on September 1st and you think that you're seeing a herd bull because let's say he's with 10 cows. Let's just throw that out there, right? You see this bull there and he's like, I don't know, it depends on where you're at and what state you're in, but I'll throw out like a 290, And then 3 days later you go and you see that herd and now they have like a 300 bull, right? And then a few days later out of that, they might have a 315 bull. So, what's happening is there's constant change going on.
Of the guard,
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go, that the bull's going to go up in class, right?
Absolutely.
We judge them that way, right?
You get a big 5x5, whoop them off.
Yeah, we had, with that year I called for Waddell, after he left, we got into, actually he and I were in that same herd. It was plus or minus 13 cows, started off with kind of a raggy 4. And then as the season progressed, I mean, you watch these bulls, increase in size. I think that group of cows went through like 5 bulls. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was calling to that herd with that punky 4. He didn't want anything to do with nothing. As soon as he heard a call, he's hooking those cows. He's trying to push them. Sure. And every time he'd run to the closest private fence line and he'd hook those cows, and get them over. And I think me and Waddell were into that bull with them maybe 2 or 3 times. Same scenario every single time. Didn't want nothing to do with nobody.
So looking at that scenario, when we talk about satellite bulls, were you guys seeing satellite bulls around that group?
No, it was, I shouldn't say it was odd. Big boys were on the private. He had these cows over on public. He didn't want to take them over to private, and he tried to stay off of it. Yeah,
Okay.
but then when you called, if you did any kind of bull sound, right? It could have been punky, mature, didn't matter. He was hightailing it, and he was going the opposite direction of you were calling. So we had these four finger ridges sitting like this north of us, to the north of us, and to the west of us. We had fence lines. If I was sitting south of him, he'd run to that closest fence line, hop that sucker, and just keep hooking and pushing. And then, if he onto the east, and then he'd shoot him right over to that west. But he'd be right back because the threat of having them cows taken away was huge when he hopped that fence line. So we would get back into him. Now, when the big boy came in, that group of 13 turned to probably 20, I think it was 23 to 25-ish animals. Mm-hmm. And he had full control, and the satellites were off on the perimeter, and they knew, hey, stay away. And then you'd watch the opportunistic, youngsters, any chance they get to get close to a cow that wandered or anything, even a calf. I mean, you see a calf break off from the herd, even little spikes, and them suckers are running on them quick. Oh, yeah. Realize what they had, and then, hang out until they got chased off.
So the key point being, as far as behaviors and everything that's going on, is that transition period is an incredible time to be able to call in a bull, because there's so much transition of one bull to the other. Bulls trying to find cows, trying to get their own cow, trying to have one. They just want to have one. And it's not that they're really not going to end up breeding that cow, because that cow's not in estrus, but they're getting to play the role. The interesting thing about that is the young guys do that. Then, at some point, generally a more mature bull takes those cows from those younger bulls. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our base camp elk hunting training camp. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. And they end up becoming those satellites. They end up being the ones that are trying to vie for an opportunity still to breed, because just because there is a herd bull doesn't mean that those satellites aren't going to breed that herd bull's cows, because he can only breed a cow, and so that cow is going to be bred, if there is enough competition in age class, will be bred by multiple bulls. If there's not, and she's not bred at the time she needs to be, she's going to come in estrus again about another 20 days later, which is going to cause another rut. That's why when we say, okay, the equinox is supposed to be the prime rut. Okay, that happens around the 21st of September, right? 7 to 14 days before, 7 to 14 days after, you've got young stuff that comes in. You've got the more consistent group that comes in. And there's a design for that. Again, it's a survival design for the animals, because they want to, it's been done so that these animals are hopefully bred about the same time so that they drop about the same time, because in the massive dropping, right, it makes it harder for predators to be able to take those. In fact, that's why sometimes you'll come across cow and calf by themselves out in some areas there, because, you know, she probably went off to have that so that it wasn't so easy for predators to be able to get them in one place. You know,
she'll go hide her calf for like a week, and then they come out of hiding. You know, the legs aren't wobbly; they can run. They're fast because there's a time frame there. But that little one is actually faster than its mother, and that's how they get away.
Right, and this is all about survival.
100%.
Hey, Guy, I have a question. What was your presentation to that bull? And then looking back now after what happened, what would you do different, and how would you other guys handled that situation?
So initially, we didn't have eyes on him, and called to him with the bull, you know, just the locating bugle, and then come around the bend and then see him hooking like, oh heck no. We knew there was elk in the area, could smell them. So he's hooking, they booger out. So the next time we got into him, it was all muse. And he was, well, we'll say he was primed for the shot, and my buddy didn't have eyes on him, and I did. But yeah,
I mean, you gave two different presentations, and he acted the same way. He was just
no, he acted way different on the cow sounds.
Oh, okay. So
he was out. Like,
okay.
I'm gone. I don't.
As soon as you sounded like a bull, he left.
Yeah, he left. Any bull sound, right? You could have grunted, he would have been out. I mean, like,
but the cow sounds, he hung around, and the cows got interested.
Yeah, he was curious. I mean, he
was,
you know, he was young and dumb, right? I mean, talking to Raggy 4, he knew what he had, but he didn't know what he had because he was willing to walk away from those cows to come and investigate another cow sound.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, all you need to do is sound like a hot cow. And I mean, he's going to come because he don't have one yet. You know, he's going to come investigate. He'll be leery, not as leery as an older bull would be. An older bull bugle at you and chuckle and invite you to come to him. You know, but that young bull's he's liable to run you over.
I will say that when he went satellite, even a couple more of the smaller bulls, once the big bull, and this was a big bull, when that bigger bull took that herd over, he was reluctant to do anything within that proximity. So he would come into the cow calls and he'd sit and make really low audible sounds, right? Huffing, and he'll rake a little bit. But after, you know, I'm saying it like this, getting his butt kicked, if you will, right? He was so reluctant to come in. So it was like, okay, this is his stop point. And it wasn't bad in terms of where we set up, where we were calling. It was just this dude would circle. He'd do this hook back and forth, and get a little bit closer, but just stay covered, stay hidden type deal.
Yeah, he was a pretty timid bull. I mean, you got a timid bull right there. I mean, he was what, a 4x4?
He was a baby bull. Bull.
So, I mean, you got a bull that really has cows, that has no reason to have cows with him. There's other bulls around. So any kind of sound like that is going to send him off, even if there's a cow, depending on what time of year, because as that season gets later, when a cow sounds off, most likely there's another bull with that cow. So that guy's still going to be timid about how far he's coming in, right?
And that bull still may not have bred any of them cows.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he may have just been with them all along.
A lost cow, a lost calf would have probably been better, because at that point he knows that that's a singled out situation, and being the chivalrous guy that he is, he'd want to go in and help, of course. That's
right. Check it out.
If he's lucky, he got to breed one of those cows. But maybe, like Guy, you're saying, he would jump the fence and go back over to where the bigger bulls are. Those big bulls are just buying their time and wait until 4 or 5 of those cows are in estrus, and then it's risk reward. Now they can come in. They got the selection. It's worth it. They don't want to just go in and breed one cow. They want to breed, multiple cows and then get out.
Yeah, and remember the goal. The goal for the bull is he wants to breed a cow, period.
Yeah.
He wants that opportunity. He don't care how old he is. He wants to breed a daggum cow. It's other bulls and the cow that's going to keep that from occurring, because a cow, if she does not accept that bull, she won't breed with him, man. It just won't happen. Now, if there's not a good age class or representation there and she needs to breed, she's going to breed with a younger bull, right? But that could happen in a second estrus, man. I mean,
that's right.
if she comes in estrus, let's say that she comes in estrus on the 5th of September. Let's say that happens, man. Then you're looking about, and doesn't get bred, you're looking at about the 25th, right around there, that she's going to come in again, right? So then you look at that. Now you're looking at on the 25th of September. Now you're going in, if she gets into a third one, in the middle of October. That's when you have that October 10th, 11th, 12th blow up, right?
It's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So Joe, with that being said, that when you're talking that, right, that speaks numbers to me, right? The more animals that I can get in and around and be in between, the more likely I'm not going to see that, 7, 10, whatever that gap is in that estrus cycle. With 4 or 5 cows, I'm way better off finding an area that I can get into, maybe less bull quality, but 20, 30 cows, especially on a short 7-day hunt.
And for me, I would rather have more bull quality. When I have a large number of bulls per cow, the competition becomes so intense that calling one in is, and especially if they're closer in age class, if you have those more mature bulls that have fewer cows there, that competition gets so intense. And because they are in that same age class, they're going to come in more readily knowing that they match up with those other ones. It's not going to be like that 4x4 that feels like anything he bumps into is going to be bigger than him. You're going to have these other ones that feel like, that feel like, so, it's kind of like on Vermejo where we were at. I mean, when you have, almost a 2-to-1 ratio, and then you're running all of these bulls. I mean, we could throw a rock and hit a 320, right? No. When you have that class of bulls like that, man, when it goes off, it goes off, man. And I mean, that's when you got bulls killing each other, right? Because they
that's
match
where our
up
South
so
Texas
well.
rut is.
We found bulls that have been killed from punctures in the side. We found bulls with broken necks. It gets really intense when you got that same more mature age class of bulls with limited cows. If you have a smaller round of bulls, if you have limited bulls with a whole bunch of cows, he's not concerned about anything that talks to him. He's going to hook and run, right? Just like that. I mean, he's got the cows with him. He's not going to be all that much to fight. There's not a whole lot out there, and those cows are going to let him breed because there's just not a lot of other bulls there to compete with, right? So
that's exactly what we found in Canada, man. There wasn't a ton of cows. You made a cow sound, and them bulls damn near run you over. I mean, they were like, "Oh my God, there's more cows in here." Where? It was crazy. It's the lack of cows that were there.
So
go ahead.
And it's just our ratio, right? Like you have a big herd bull, which could be a 4 or 5 point, maybe a 6 point, but he might have 4 cows. He may have 6. But how many times did we run into it when you guys were up where a bull had 20 cows?
No.
None.
Yeah.
None. It doesn't happen.
Right.
So it's zone dependent.
Total different.
Yeah. So that calling scenario is going to be totally different from where you have a bull with 20, 30 cows and more open terrain versus thick terrain. There's so much that you have to think about, right?
And if you consider the goal, so you got the goals of the bulls. The bulls want to breed, right? And what they're going to do is they're going to, prior to that transition, that rut transition, they're going to set pecking orders. They want to know what their competition. It's no different than guys in high school, man. A new kid comes in to school in a high school, all the other dudes are measuring him up, right?
Totally.
And so are the gals, man. They're like, okay, is this the top dog now that's coming in? It's the same way. So when those bulls are setting that pecking order, when they hear another bull, whether it's raking, low vocalizations, that is a draw, because at that time they want to see what the competition is. This a new bull? Where do I stand in line with this bull? They want to see that. So when you know that in that pre-rut period, when you understand that, then it helps you with your decisions on your calls. Is it going to do any good for you at that point to doing cow calls? All right, here's where it gets tricky. Mews, yes. Like as far as just it could be a bull or a cow mew. I try to make it sound more mature through a tube. I do it one time. I try to make it sound like a bull mew, and then they can make them curious. Okay, their testosterone's not at the period where they want to breed right now. Okay, but that's that pre-rut. That's where they're measuring everything. Then when that rut transition starts to happen, those big guys are splitting off, and you'll see 4 or 5 rags together, or younger bulls, right?
Yeah.
You'll see them together. They're hanging out. Oh, everything's all good, man. Everything's good. We're pals, right? Until one of them's like, "Oh, there's a cow. I want that cow," right? And then so you have that where they are now trying to gather up cows at that point in that transition.
Yeah.
Now they're the pseudo herd bull, but guys, the same thing happens. Like once you get to the rut, when you get to the post rut, the same thing happens, man. The big guys that were doing all the work and doing all the breeding and losing all that weight, they drop off and go someplace to recover. Those younger bulls come in and they get to play the part again.
Yeah. And those big bulls are still, whether it's pre-rut or the post-rut, like Joe just said, those big bulls are going from this herd of cows to this herd of cows, and they're smelling and they're smelling and they're smelling. That's why you have those bulls that are touring around, and all of a sudden they come in and he's got the cows.
Yeah.
He's coming in. He's smelling, okay, that group has a hot cow. I'm coming in to take her.
I watched in one hunt. It was incredible. There was a bull that came into a drinking area, and he was just a big 5x5. Big 5x5.
Like a saloon? The saloon?
Yeah, it's like the saloon. Let's say he's in the saloon. And you could tell it was a big bull in decline. That's why he was a big 5, right? But let me tell you what, man, you could hear boo-woo, boo-woo, all these other bulls coming with their cows. As soon as they would get close to the saloon door, 5x5 would go out, and he'd take and pull his pistols, whip the crap out of that bull, and bring his cows down. This guy started with 10 cows. He did that 4 times, and by the time he did that, he's got like 60 cows, man, because he's going up and taking them from all these other bulls and whipping their butt. You could hear, one of the bulls that he whipped, so this will go to Guy Duplantier's thing. One of the bulls he whipped got shot and was a 406.
Oh, wow. My goodness.
Wow.
Got his butt whipped by a big 5x5.
By a 5. Just, wow.
So my first time ever guiding a muzzleloader hunt, I guided a really good friend of mine, and it was a horrible day. Like Joe was saying, it was blowing 45 miles out of the north. I mean, just blowing like crazy, 45, 50 miles an hour. And make a long story short, we found these bulls in a back pocket and I didn't need to do anything but make a couple of cow sounds, and they were going nuts. So we saw them and I shut up immediately. Didn't need to say anything else. We put the Mohican sneaking in there. It was a muzzleloader hunt. So we got within 130 yards of this bull. This bull was whipping. I mean, I knocked him down several times. This other bull was a 7x7. Okay. Probably scored 360, 370. And this 5x5 or 5x6, it had this gnarly drop time. And I mean, he probably didn't score 280, right? 285, but he was knocking this bull over time and time again. And I tried to get my buddy to shoot the 7x7. He goes, I want to kill that big one that's knocking him down. And he was full of mud and everything. So he ended up killing that bull. But that was the first time I saw a smaller statured horn bull, as big a body, but not as much up top, whip a huge bull. And he was whipping them all off,
That says a lot to what Joe was speaking to, though, right?
Exactly.
As those younger bulls come back in and they're trying to flaunt a little bit, right? That big bull's been going around spreading his seed. He's been fighting. He's worn out. He's lost a bunch of weight. You're talking muzzleloader season, right? He's a month and some change into this.
It was
now
October
there's
1st.
an opportunity. There's some opportunity of this guy hanging on the outskirts being an opportunist to go in there and flex the muscle.
Well, and it happens the other way too, because a lot of times you won't see a smaller bull fighting with a bigger bull. I mean, generally it's kind of like guys flexing the guns, man. They'll go by, they'll get big on the side, they'll put their horns back, they'll intimidate, and those guys will just go off, right? They'll go off from it. But when you take that 5x5 example I was talking about, if that's a declining bull that one time was much bigger because now he's in decline, when he looks in the mirror, he's not a young age class bull. You know,
he's an older bull.
Like a good friend of mine says, Chico Gallegos, he says, an old lion is still a lion, right?
Exactly,
so, you know, that bull sees himself differently. And some of those bulls that are a little freakish too are older bulls. They're older class bulls,
no doubt.
And they see themselves in a little bit different light. But
we killed 3 bulls in that horrible day, in that gale force wind. Killed 3 bulls in one day. In that morning, we killed 3 bulls. And I mean, we could have very well stayed in the rack because some of them boys didn't really feel real good the next morning getting up. But at the end of the day, they didn't. And they killed some incredible bulls that morning.
So,
and it was horrible weather.
Here's one thing I want to tell you about bulls like that. So, Gil, you remember the bull that I killed a few years ago that had the club, right?
Yeah, the drop. Yeah.
Yeah, he is so big on one side that if he's doubled, he's a 370 bull. So he's got all this on one side. He's got the sword, he's got the club, he's got this huge dagger, right? Yeah. So when you look at that, you're like, well, you know, is that bull ever going to be that herd bull? Well, after I killed this bull, it wasn't even a week that I see one exactly like him, right?
Oh, wow.
Showing that the genetics had been passed. And we saw another bull like that wasn't this, another bull just like that. So what that's showing is, even though that bull genetically wasn't this big, huge 6x6, he still got to a stature where he became a herd bull. One of them, either their daddy or their grandpappy, that passed that genetics on, man, and did it, you know, because I thought it was just a messed up pedicule that caused that. Yeah. But man,
it's genetic trait.
It's a genetic trait that was absolutely bred. So
I want to see him now, Joe. We're gonna get a shot at being in that country before long. So can't wait.
Well, and you think those bulls, like you're just talking, they eventually get tired of getting their butt whooped, you know, and either they tuck tail and they run and they stay on the outskirts forever, or they get aggressive and they run down into that meadow and they try to take a cow. So I mean, it's just one or the other, you know.
Or they wait till the cow's been bred by one bull and then they go in and breed that same cow again, right?
Yeah.
So because they were next up, you know.
Because he wants his offspring to go on and on. You know, that's it's in their brain. That's why they're breeding. He wants his, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but he wants his seed in that cow.
Yeah, his lineage.
To go, that's right, to go on and on. That's exactly what you're saying, Gil. Like, that's why they have those antlers that are the way they are, you know.
He is wired to breed. He is wired to breed.
Especially in that setting, man. We see it in our whitetail woods too. I know Charlie can attest to this. It's vicious. These whitetail are vicious animals when they're breeding, you know, and when they're during the rut, they kill each other a lot, man. Especially in dense in very, you know, slightly dense doe populations. They will absolutely break main beams off, poke each other in the gut. You know, we're trying to get them 5 to 7, 8 years old, and it's just not doable at times, man, because they're going to kill each other.
Broke off in their head. sticking
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
sixes,
So-
big sixes dominating big tens, because
Oh,
they get
yeah.
inside the rack,
Yeah.
and they just
Yeah, because
dominate.
of the configuration. That's the same thing I
Yep.
said with this bull with
Exactly.
the spear, right?
Yes.
Yep.
He has a
Yeah.
configuration that makes him a deathly fighter that hurts people,
Yep.
It's not necessary. And then we watch it in the whitetail woods. Some of the biggest antlered whitetails are the most docile. They don't have that meanness in them like a small 130-inch small frame short rack timed 8-point is. It's just a bully. He'll walk up in there and just slam a 180-inch or a 200-inch whitetail, man.
It's a hood rat deer.
Yeah, they just hood rat. We call them. That's exactly right. They're hood rat deers, and same thing in the elk community. You'll have some of them that are just meaner than other ones. They're just their physical disposition is the same size as a big herd bull. They just don't have the antlers, but they're just meaner, man. And they breed in a way that's much more aggressive. It's it's like them having personalities. Your guy grunting over there.
That would probably lend itself to testosterone, right? I mean, just like every other critter, right? You get up in age class where you're sporting the white mustache, and that test level is dropping way, way down there, buddy.
You can always tell by the people that still have hair, man.
Where the carpet don't match the drapes. I mean, man.
Yeah. So, but when you talk about needs on that cow needs to breed the biggest bull with the biggest bull she can to have the strongest calf that she has. And she needs to eat all the time to be able to support that. That's why, where you're going to be looking for these animals are going to be the places where these cows can get good feed to be able to raise a healthy calf, right? And then once she drops that calf, it's got to be in some place where that herd can be together, can see, can protect, can help that calf to survive as much as possible, can't be too difficult for that calf as well, and it's feed. So that's where the slaves to the belly.
They're slaves to their bellies.
Oh, yeah. And that calf's going to be sucking 24 hours a day. So she's got to be eating to recoup all that.
Yeah, forgive me on the range, but I believe, even after she's bred, gestation doesn't begin until 9 to 13% body fat, right? So she can be bred, and then until she hits that body fat percentage of 9, I believe it's 9 to 13 is the range. I know 13 is the magic number, but that's going to hold, right? So she's gonna be into that hot and heavy area. I mean, the whole herd will be if it's that time of year. So.
So with that said, can you end up with a cow coming in estrus in November?
I would think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100% you can.
Mm-hmm.
The cycle goes on. The cycle goes on until they're bred, and then they're no longer coming in. Yeah. And it might only be 1 or 2 in November, but there's 1 or 2.
Absolutely, but it can, and it's going to be a tough outcome on that calf. Right.
Yeah.
Be a tough outcome. Yeah, but but it absolutely can happen, man. So you kind of get some breeding instincts there. You understand that, so when a bull is around cows, the way that he tries to get that cow to breed with him is by demonstrating his physicalness, his ability, his dominance. He wants to demonstrate that. That's why he fights off other bulls. That's why he demonstrates by ripping up trees. That's why he demonstrates with his voice. That's why he's constantly talking with them, right? He wants to, because even though he has them herded together in this harem, and he's constantly, and here's the other thing in that breeding instinct, he knows that he needs to trail, and he will move back and forth. He will herd these cows, try to keep them in together constantly, and he will go back and forth so he can scent check his harem in case something comes in heat. right? So he's going to trail that herd where they're going. He doesn't determine where they bed. He doesn't determine where they eat. His only job is, man, is he's going to stay with them, announce and demonstrate that he's the guy, so that when comes in heat, he's going to try to breed that cow if he can be accepted by how he has demonstrated himself. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna hear him just real low moans and groans and glunking. That's why you get glunking. That's a bull. He's just trailing the cows real close. That's his talking just with the herd girls. Yep. Yep.
And if you hear that glunking,
yep.
Well,
Yep.
if you hear that, that is a bull tending a cow.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Another point, very important point, right?
He's
if you
begging,
hear that glunking, you are in
close.
the red zone.
You are close.
Better have your stuff together, babe. Knocked, cocked, and ready to rock.
Don't call him. Just go
He's
get him.
he's basically yearning that cow to stand for him so he can mount.
Yeah, he's just, man, you know that things are happening there. So that's one of the reasons that, you know, when you bugle and you have a bull that screams, he's doing two things, man. He's letting you know he's there, but he's not really talking to you. He's letting his cows know that he's there and he's still the guy, because now he's got another adversary up there. He's just announcing, I'm here. Yeah. Right. And that's the other thing. When you're trying to call to a bull, like when you're trying to be aggressive with a bull, you got to understand that most of the time, the bulls that are trying to be aggressive, that herd bull, come in visual contact. They come in so they can measure each other, right? Yeah. He walks around and they look at each other, and he stays on the outskirts. He's also doing that and demonstrating for those cows as well, because after that bull breeds, he wants to be able to breed as well. He might not be the herd bull that's doing it, but he's going to get his opportunity. So you've got to understand that that's happening visually most of the time. You'll see a bull that all he does is he runs at a bull, man, with his horns, and he'll turn and run away. You know, he gets too close in his proximity. Yeah. So when you're in there calling off in a distance and that bull's doing that, you got to understand that most of the time those bulls come in and show themselves visually. So for you to pull him off, if he is with cows, is so hard to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That means he doesn't have any cows that are in heat. Like,
he comes off, there's another one comes in and cuts him out.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So there's all of this trading, there's all of this jaunting, there's all of this activity. That's why they lose so much weight, man. It's a constant workout that they're doing.
Really
right?
Lots and lots of pestering.
Yep.
You know, with everything that we're talking about, right? I'm gonna go back to Jeremy Gilbertson's question, right? With the expectations, right? This is how you explain elk season, right? Yeah. This is this ebb and flow of the rut and this pecking order and wanting to breed cows and how this is always in flux. You know, 7 to 10 days, man, is a drop in the bucket for elk season. I'm sorry, right? I mean, it's just a drop in the bucket, and depending on what time of September, or if you're, you know, starting early like Chav up in August, and you know, there's just so much going on. So, you know, that there's a good explanation there, Jeremy, rolling back to your question, man.
Yeah. So if we were to take that, what we were talking about, even in the breeding instincts, behaviors, needs, and goals, and we were to add roles into that, you know, we've already talked about a herd bull. We've talked about satellite bulls. Can satellite bulls be herd bulls?
Absolutely.
Yeah. As long as they're not a satellite, if they take over and they got cows, they can take over a herd. You know, they might just be a bull with a cow. That's not a bull, right?
Yeah, a herd bull could be a 3-point.
Yeah.
In his eyes, you know, he's a stud. He's got one cow. I'm a herd bull.
Yeah.
What about the spikes? What about the spikes?
They're dumb as a bag of hammers, man. You just got to sound like some.
But what about their role, bro? What about their role at this time?
They're centuries, man. They're looking out for everything. They hear something, they're gonna go check it out, man. You know, they'll even lag behind. I've even seen them Joe and I've been trailing a herd of big bulls and cows, and we call the spikes back. They come. They're supposed to be going with the herd, and Joe and I were like, man, we're talking and looking at one another, and we turn to our left, and there's a spike looking right at us. I mean, they're like, hey, man, did y'all miss the party? We're wanting you to join us. Come with us. You know, I mean, it's crazy, dude. They just want to be part. You know?
They become the expelled students, dude.
Yeah.
They're on the outskirts.
So I think the spikes that the Joe's talking about are like, in our language, they'd be like the 8 or 9 year old kids, right?
Yeah.
You got those, and then you got the 15, 16, 18-year-old boys that want to do some breeding.
Sure.
But the spikes aren't quite there yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they're with other buddies, and they're running around with their buddies, just running around being elk. But
they eat good too.
And they
I
get
don't know if they even
expelled by the
have
other
that
bulls.
urge.
They are a bull, so they get pushed out by the other bulls.
Yeah.
I've seen to where the cows they'll tolerate the younger spikes.
They will,
but they'll even kick them to the curb, right? They're not a part of anything. You know, as the herd goes, if you know, that dynamic, they're just like Joe said. They're expelled, man.
Lone wolf,
outcast.
It's like Gilbert said, you give them 1 or 2 calls, and they're in 4-wheel drive, and their legs are just
crazy.
They're storming the room to come see who their buddies
they
are.
Stood there and watched Joe and I laugh and talk, and I'm not begging for it, you know. I'm like, golly, when you need to kill a bull, you can't call one of these jokers in fast enough. I mean, wow. I call Tom Roth ended up killing a really nice big spike up there with us a couple of years ago, and I called that bull back 4 times. You know, he just wanted to be part of the party. You know,
I love those.
He didn't like what he saw a couple of times. Man, we called him right back. I said, "Don't worry, Tom, I'll call him back." He goes, "What? Gilbert, you think you'll call him back?" I said, "Oh yeah, watch."
And we
put on the show.
We talked about the pecking order with the bulls, right? What about with the cows? The roles within the cows, man.
Oh yeah, there's a century cow for sure, a lead cow.
There's a difference between that lead cow and that century cow, because that lead cow is kind of taking them where they're going to go, and then you'll have that century cow that'll multiple times those different century cows will lag back and just look on the back trail, right?
Yeah.
And they establish their pecking order. I've seen them fight for it.
Oh yeah,
get up on their hind legs and paw the crap out of one another. They're mean. We thought the boys were mean. Those cows are mean, man. Yeah, I've seen them hair fly off of them, man, when they get after it, dude.
They're mean and they're smart. I mean, they're going to be the ones. Now, let me tell you something. This is the thing too. Like, you always got to think like an elk. You got to think what's happening when you go out there, because let's say that I have a bull that's over here and I'm going after that bull, and I have a bunch of cows over here, and I don't want to go forward because I don't want to spook those cows because they're going to run off, make a bunch of noise. Spook them, man. Split them off. Get them and let them go, and then, man, even just now you're actually set, because he hears that running. You go in there and you give a little bit of some low vocalizations of a bull or something like that. He's coming, man. Or you could even do something where you try to regather, do those regather and mew and pull stuff in like that. So think about, just because you spook something and they make noise, that is a common behavior. If there was another bull that did something that started hooking and started pushing, that would absolutely get them to make that noise, right?
Yep.
You just have to play out the part.
Yeah, and that cow thing goes back to the expectations we were talking about earlier. If you want meat in the freezer, I'm telling you guys, antlerless elk, a cow elk, sweetest tasting meat. It's totally different than bull meat. I mean, you want to put meat in the freezer? If you have that season and it's open to you, why not take it? Capitalize on it.
Go ahead, Traps. I'm sorry.
So and for those guys that have never shot an elk before, I always tell everybody knows the first elk that you're going to shoot is 100% the hardest elk you're ever going to shoot, no matter what. Get one in the freezer, get one under your belt, whether it's with a rifle, whether it's with a bow. Doesn't matter. Just get an elk under your belt, and the next ones come easier. So
It's easier.
yeah.
Yeah. And what I was going to say too is we've had people that'll write into us and says, you guys are always talking about how to kill a bull, so how do you kill a cow? And it's no different, man.
No
It's no
different.
different. You're doing the same things that you're doing for that bull, man,
Yeah.
because
You play to
know,
their maternal instincts.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Because
get on the cow mews
lost
and
calf. Mhm.
you call them in, because like you say, there's certain cows in that herd that they're on the lookout. They're seeing what's going on. They're checking the area out before they go anywhere.
Yep.
And those are the cows. Those are the ones that are going to come walking by you and give you a 25-yard shot.
Yep.
We got the ninja here. He just came back, and I harken back to a time when I was with Chav, and we were hunting bulls, right? And we see this herd in front of us. There's probably 15, 20 cows, and there's some bulls talking past them. And I'm like, man, what are we going to do, to get to them bulls? And Chav said, well, are you going to shoot a cow? And I said, probably not. He said, well, don't worry about them then. Let's just call our way right through them and let's go, right? So I put Chav up front, me behind him. I'm cow calling. They'd lift their head up and look at us, and we just kept right on rolling. And we never spooked. If we spooked them, we didn't see it, right? But and what Joe said's right. If we did spook them, it just played to them bulls hearing a whole bunch of elk running and going on, because it didn't take long and we had those bulls' attention, right? Because we done come through a herd of elk, and now we're on these bulls, But again, having a guy like Chav that has such knowledge of how elk operate, I would have probably locked up by myself right there and not even went across through that. And it wasn't a little opening. This was a big expanse to go across. And we just walked right through them, man. And really, they didn't booger, did they, Chav? I mean, not at all. We walked right through them like we were one of them, So, but we were sounding like them, and we were kind of moving like them. So I think that if you can't be worried about damaging your hunt to go to something that you're playing off of. Those bulls were talking. We just didn't know what they were, and it was a whole pile of bulls. It was like 6 of them.
Yeah.
Right? And no big giant bulls, but they were all talking down there.
The only critter is those daggum spikes that always mess it up for me, man, because they always want to run straight to something. You know what I'm saying?
They do.
Yeah. Charlie,
you gotta let your
question, man?
I got a question. Whenever you guys talk about, let's say cow hunting, or you're doing a scenario with, with your calf calls, I mean, y'all being static, or are you kind of moving around and doing your calf calls? Because I can see I've seen calves, meow. I mean, they're moving around like,
they are.
Mom, where you at, Mom?
100%.
Okay.
So you want to throw your calls in a different direction.
Exactly.
The only time I'm staying still in one spot is when I'm in the bubble of the elk that you're calling to.
Yeah.
If you're on the outskirts and you're doing your scenario and you're doing your thing, man, I've been known to go 100 yards either way. And Joe's the same. He's over here 100 yards, and then next thing you know, you hear him over here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dynamic. You're moving forward, and you're moving back. You're moving side to side. You're checking the wind the whole time. You're playing the wind. Then my calling ends up, where I have to be for the wind to be able to call the elk in.
Charlie, I'm throwing mine back behind me, man. Charlie.
Always. Yeah.
So I'm like, I can actually move without moving too, because just by how I throw the calls, right? So
I throw them down. I'm throwing behind me. I mean,
And one thing
depends on the cover.
One thing I always want people to think about this too is you can control how a bull comes into you, man. So if I have a bull that's over on my left cheek over on that side, man, and I start throwing my calls and he's in front of me to that left side, and I throw my calls across to my right side, especially if I have anything to throw down into that can echo down in there or do that. Now, instead of me throwing behind me, now that bull's going to come across my face going down to look for that. So you can direct where you want them to go with your call. All right.
Yeah, and you'll literally see the bull doing this.
One of my favorite tactics to do, man, is to send them so that they are crossing over to me. Right.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of guys, they're just thinking that you're standing in one spot. when you're calling.
Yeah, no,
and you're not.
You can stand in one spot and sound like you're in different spots, right? But you got to use your bugle tube and move yourself around. Me and Dylan and Brian Hagler and RC hunted an area that in Canada last year that was a mineral lick, and we called a cow in sounding like calves and cows together. But we're in one little spot, and I mean there was probably maybe 60 yards between us, and Dylan would sound like a cow and I'd sound like a lost calf. Dude, that cow tried to run us over. She came in there so hard on us, man. And I mean, we could have killed her easy, I mean, she was 12 yards from me and probably only 10 yards from Brian. But I mean, she come roaring up in there to try to find that calf that was lost, so.
And Charlie,
ahead,
if I'm with a partner, I'm absolutely moving, man. And one of the things and some people don't like to lose sight of the person that's their partner, but it depends on the situation that's going on. If I'm doing a lost cow and I've got a bull and I'm trying to pull him away and I know that my partner's a killer and knows what to do with the decisions, then I don't worry about that, man. Then I will go away and sound like that lost calf searching and then come back, and I actually try to use the terrain especially if I have any kind of terrain that lets me go a little bit down, not to be seen or enough vegetation. I will use the crap out of that, man. Just that calf that's just looking, going around, just looking. Right. So,
and Joe's actually went away from me calling and, had me run down there and get in position. And he goes away from me and pulls the bull by me. He didn't even know I killed the bull until he walks down and he's like, "What's up?" Bonanno's like, he killed that bull, and he's like,
I could hear the shot and I could hear a thump and I could hear a bunch of crashing. That's all, I did.
He just never saw it,
Yeah. And the whole time you're moving, it's not just on the calls. Right. You're pulling grass out of the earth. Whatever. I'm taking my bugle tube and I'm hitting branches. I'm snapping stuff off. I'm making elk type sounds because that's what a bull is trying to hear. He's going to hear, a commotion going on, and that's what's going to draw that bull over. If you just stand there and go, ew, ew.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of people.
Man, that's pretty boring, right?
A lot of people.
I think a lot of people do that, and
they do.
Heck, when I'm calling for my son, I've worked up a sweat, dude.
Oh yeah,
my hands. You almost need gloves for the branches you're raking.
You do.
I mean, it's crazy how much you work.
It ain't almost need.
Yeah,
you do need.
People don't understand that the noise that you make is as much a sell. I think you can really not make any noise. If you've done like one call, I think you could do all kinds of noise and pull with that without doing anything else.
Absolutely.
Because I've broken branches by accident and had a bull scream at me.
Bugle.
And I'm like, oh.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. RC knocked one of the first times I ever hunted with RC. He broke a big limb underneath him when he stepped on it. And I mean, this bull bugles 70, 80 yards from us hearing that, that branch break. So they're very tuned into their surroundings and understand what other elk sound like.
That reality.
Yep. Okay, there was a spot where you remember Chav? I took you and Daryl, and Gil was there, and Joe came. We quadded in that one day, and we dropped Daryl and Chav off, and they walked into the bush. And Gilbert, you and Joe walked around, went around. So me and Jason hunted that same area, and I quadded into there, right exactly where you guys met Chav. I was doubling Jason, and I backed the quad into the bush. And in doing so, I backed over some of those willows that were dry and cracky, and it smashed. I no sooner, honest to God, shut the quad off, the engine just quit, and there was like,
oh yeah.
Not 60 yards behind us.
Yep.
And coming up that trail that Chav and Daryl walked in on, this bull's coming, and our bows are in our cases. It's dark still. We're going, holy crap, like what are we gonna do, right? This bull's coming. Well, it wasn't 30 seconds later, and that bull was 20 yards, 25 yards from us, standing in those willows, and you could hear him. He's breathing down our necks, right? And we're done. We're standing there going,
ain't got nothing knocked up or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that tells you, man, when they're aggressive, and when you break trees and things happen, they could care less. You know,
I've slammed
and
I've had one bugle because I slammed a door to the truck.
yeah.
again, don't make a sound unless you're ready, man, when you're in the Elk Woods. Because I'm telling you, I'll never forget. I made Carl Gamage was such a treat to be around, man. And he called some, man, you know, and stuff like that. But he was letting me fill my oats and makes a few cow calls. And we shut the bike off, and I got my big Canadian buddy Steve Tucker with me, and he said, "Well, go ahead. You know, we just got done." And he's getting his gear all together, Carl is. He said, "Go ahead and see if you get one to answer." Yeah, one. Yeah. And
Yeah.
directly in front of us, this bull comes pouring off the side of this ridge, big 5x5, man. Turn him sideways, and he ain't even got the gun loaded yet, man. And Tucker's like, "Whoa, is that a good one?" He goes, "Hell yeah, let me get the gun loaded." So he gets the gun loaded, right? And he hands it to Tucker, and Tucker's like, "Is that a good one?" He goes, "Hell yeah, it's a good one." He said, "Shoot him." Well, the bull gets by, he kind of sees Tucker moving, and he trots off away, and Tucker doesn't want to Texas heart shot him. So anyhow, make a long story short, we were not ready for that bull yet, right? But he didn't care. He come off the side of that ridge, man, and poured right in there on the top of us. And Carl looked at me and he goes, "Well, I guess your calling's all right."
And the whole thing,
good.
the whole thing leading up to that, you could have went a week and not heard one single bugle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
But you do what you just did there, that one, holy crap, here it comes, right?
Yeah.
So
it looked like a rock star. Steve was like, "Oh my God, dude, I can't believe he came in with one call," you know? So it's been some magical times in the woods, dude. And I think that's another thing, Joe's, you just got to be in the woods to get these experiences,
You
right?
know,
You really got to put your time in.
Yeah.
I see guys shaking his head.
Man.
It's imperative for you to spend time in the woods around.
That's what I tell people. You can't kill them from camp, right? I mean, the more time you spend in the woods, do things, you know, the more you're going to learn. So, you know, this is a good spot right here. I think we've talked about a lot of critical things that people need at that time, but we're going to finish up. Well, maybe we'll finish up. We'll see, because there's a couple things I want to do. We're going to go into the behavior habits and instincts and stuff like that, some of the survival stuff that plays against this breeding instincts, that is the yin and the yang to all of this, right? So that they understand that. And then what I want to do is I want to be able to then talk about scenarios and talk about strategies and different things that match some of these behaviors. And I don't want to do it in a way we're just giving it up. I want people to really think about, now that they're listening to what's going on, what the goals are, what the needs are, what the behaviors are. I want them to start trying to tie that in as we're doing that, okay? How this kind of equals this kind of behavior, so we do this kind of strategy, all right? So that's where we're going to go. We're going to have a special guest next time. So Mr. Solinsky will be with us. We're going to plan on doing that. So I'm excited about that. And I really, really hope you guys are getting this and understanding that this becomes the why. All right?
Yeah.
This becomes the why.
Yeah.
So
that's what kicks it off for us in September, boys.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this is the why,
this
right?
is the why.
And then we'll dive into some more details here on the next episode here coming up in the next week or so. So I'm looking forward to having Mr. Zielinski in with us. I know our panelists of pros that are up here are going to be, you know, in the house with us, ready to rock and roll. So if you like what we're doing, guys, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts and iTunes to review us. You know, and be sure to include your name and where you're from to get in on our spinner winner wheel drawing that Joe does from time to time. And if you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. Fellas, also, you know, this is not anything other than a shameless plug, but we are outfitters in New Mexico. We still have some tags available. If you guys are interested in hunting in New Mexico, get it, Joe. You can find him at joe@elkbros.com. You can find me at at Gilbert at ElkBrosAdventures.com, and we can help you guys out. We still have a few tags left, right, Joe?
Yes, sir. They're going fast, man. We won't have.
They're going fast. They're going. Hey, look, man. I've been on the internet with them, and a lot of you guys have shown out and really been supportive. So I want to thank all the guys that have been on the forums and stuff like that I've been on.
It's been really cool, man. Chav has just been sending soloists and our signature calls out the door, man. I mean, the orders have been going out there. We're so excited. Can't wait to see some photos that are going to happen, this year. Just super, super proud of that, man. So thank y'all, man. And we're excited to see what you're going to do with the gear.
You betcha. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to Joe at ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, kiss your wives, wives, kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.
And for all our grinders out there, here's some more music from our brother, Tony Wintrip, to close out the show.
Oh!
Later, brothers.
It's been one of those years. I want to put it all behind. I got a clip full of Remington core locks, and it's about closing time. I'm mounted up 4x12 on the top. I'm about to make that big buck drop. One more step, he's across the finish line. Yeah, drop the hammer time. I got some history with this mystery. Dude that's been around for a while. Been giving me fits the last 3 years. I'd love to see him in a pile. When his ears are up, he's out of luck. Gonna be in the hands of mine when it's drop the hammer time. Been many nights at the table, y'all, when I was eating crow. When I came home after darkness and everything was cold. And all those times I told her, she said, boy, you're never gonna be right when it's drop the hammer time. When I saw the latest forecast and the temps were getting cold, I figured that old boy was hungry and his sack was about to fold. And all those times that he sniffed the wind, his nose was better than mine. And now it's drop the hammer time. There's been many nights at the table, y'all, when I was eating crow, that I came home after darkness and everything was cold. And all those times I told her, she said, boy, you're never gonna be right until it's drop the hammer time. And I picked up the phone. It was dialed up a little bit early. Said, baby, I'm coming home. She said, there's daylight left and dinner's not ready. I said, everything's just fine. It was drop the hammer time. There's been many nights at the table, y'all, when I was eating crow, that I came home after darkness and everything was cold. And all those times I told her, she said, boy, you're never gonna be right. But it was drop the hammer time. It was drop the hammer time. summertime.